and I'm joined by my lovely colleague, Madeline.
Hi guys, I'm Madeline Wilderson. I'm an immigration advisor and I work with retention, so I will see you when you arrive.
Today's session is focused primarily on, it should be finances and insurance, but because it's one of the final sessions before international orientation, we're also going to touch on a lot of reminders and important information you need to know just as you're preparing to come to international orientation and join the Maverick community. So with that, I'll go through our agenda today and then we'll get started on our presentation. Very quickly, we'll talk about I-20 and visa information, which you all probably have received already. We'll cover international orientation, finances and payments, health insurance, preparing your travel to Mankato, housing and transportation when you get to the university, what to expect with your academics and class registration, working on campus and employment opportunities, because I know a lot of you have questions about that. And then finally, how to get involved when you get to the university.
Awesome. All right. So as Beth said, we're going to touch on this very quickly because you likely already have your I-20 ready to go that you probably used at your visa interview. But your I-20 is really one of your most important documents. Sometimes we think, okay, the visa, that's all I need. You also need your I-20 to be accurate, printed out, ready to go, and in your carry-on baggage when you get on the plane, because you will present that at the border once you go through customs. So really have a look at it, make sure everything looks correct, and if there are any issues, please communicate with our office, but make sure you have that printed. Do not wait until the night before your flight to print it out. Make sure you have a copy. That's really important. And then also, some of you kind of are, when you applied, you thought you were going to do one major, but now you've talked to other people or you've had some other experiences and you want to change your major. We can't do that until you arrive. And so there's a request process that you can fill out after you've arrived, and we can get you an updated I-20 with a new major on it. But please, if that's the one change you would like to make, we're asking that you please wait until you arrive to make that request. However, if your name is wrong, if your birth date is wrong, those kinds of demographic details, if any of those are wrong, you can report that to us and we can get it changed. Also, very important is that you pay the $350 SEVIS I-901 fee. This is the fee that keeps your SEVIS record active and kind of maintains your record as you are a student. It's valid for 12 months. So if you are one of those students who may not have gotten their visa to be able to arrive on time and you need to kind of defer when you begin, the good thing is as long as you're deferring within that 12 months, you do not need to repay the fee. It's also a really good idea to carry a screenshot or a copy of the receipt that you paid that fee. Usually border agents don't ask for it, but it's always good to be over prepared and have that proof that, yes, my SEVIS status and my record is ready to go and I've completed all the pieces that I'm supposed to.
Hopefully, most of you have already scheduled your visa interview or had your visa interview or have it coming up in the next couple of weeks. So just a few final reminders for preparing for your visa interview. If you have not done so already, you should have filled out the DS-160 visa application form. This is what schedules the interview at the U.S. Embassy or consulate where you are attending your visa interview. If you have not scheduled your visa interview, the fee for that visa interview did just go up in June. And that fee now is $185 to apply for a visa interview date. So just make note of that $15 increase. When you do schedule your visa interview, you need to schedule that first available interview date. Usually you get to like a calendar option where you can see the open interview slots. Select the earliest appointment date, even if it's after that the semester begins, because you can always go back in and try to request an expedited interview date after you've scheduled that initial appointment. If you are not able to get an interview date where you can arrive to Mankato by August 15th, you will need to defer your admission to spring of 2024 and then go for your interview for spring instead of fall. We will not be accepting late arrivals after August 15th. So it's really important that you get that interview date scheduled by then. And if you are not able to get that earlier appointment, you will have to change your admission to spring. When you are preparing for your interview, be ready to explain a few topics. First of all, your university choice. Why are you coming to Minnesota State University, Mankato? Why do you want to study in the United States? And how will this help you with your academic and your career goals? So talk about why this is the best fit university for you because of what you hope to do with your future career. You also want to explain ties to your home country. So this is your motivation to return to your home country after you finish your program. Because the F1 visa is a non-immigrant visa, that means it's temporary. So you're applying for a temporary visa to be in the US during your program of study. So at the time of your visa interview, you need to show your intention to return to your home country or at least depart the United States after you finish your program. That's really important to show for visa officers or explain to visa officers what that motivation is for you. Then you will also need to explain how you will fund your education in the United States. So explain who your sponsor is and how they have that money and are able to sponsor you. And if you need helpful resources, I highly recommend looking at the YouTube channel for Argo Visa. They have great videos about preparing for the F1 student visa interview, videos about what to do if you are denied a visa. So I highly recommend reviewing some of their YouTube videos.
Thanks, Beth. All right, I get to talk about international orientation. So this is one of the busiest and also most exciting weeks of the year, especially the fall orientation, because we have so many new students arriving. It's very exciting. Get to choose your classes, get to meet other new students, make your first friends, figure out where you're living, go to all kinds of events and fun things happening on campus. So we're really excited about it, and we're preparing every day in our office. So as Beth said, you need to be able to arrive to our campus in Mankato no later than August 15th. August 15th is the Tuesday of that week, and we will have check-in on Monday and Tuesday. And so it's really important that you at least arrive by the 15th. During check-in, there's usually a bit of a queue and you have your documents with you. So sometimes students get off of the shuttle from the airport and they're very tired, jet lagged, and trying to figure stuff out. So make sure you have, when you come to check-in, your passport with your visa inside it and that initial I-20 that you used to enter the United States. What we will do during check-in is we'll take some scans of those documents so that we have that in our system in case anything happens. And then you'll also kind of begin to complete these steps of a checklist. And so that may involve placement testing, which will be indicated on this piece of paper that you'll get with kind of a checklist of what you need to do. So if you have not done placement testing from your home, which has been an option, you should have received a voucher if you've gotten your visa to be able to take those placement tests if you're an undergraduate student. If you do not take those placement tests ahead of time online, then you will need to do so when you arrive during orientation. So there are two types of placement tests. One determines which level of math you will do, and the other one determines whether you will be placed in which English course. Sometimes there are exemptions for both. It really depends on a case-by-case basis with each student, what they did in high school, if they've taken the TOEFL before or the IELTS. There are kind of a lot of different factors. So you will find out what you need to do when you're at check-in. If you do take any extra placement kind of tests before you arrive and after you applied, please submit those just so that we have that ahead of time. It just makes things smoother, and it can determine if you don't need to take a test during that week, which is kind of nice. The next big thing that you need to do during orientation week is to pay the annual health insurance. So in the state of Minnesota, there is a state law that all international students must pay for health insurance. This is a law in the state of Minnesota. Each state in the United States has different laws related to what international students must do in regards to health insurance. But because the United States does not have a universal healthcare system, this is why paying for student health insurance is really important, just to kind of make sure that those costs are within reason if anything should happen. If you get sick, if you get injured, that you are covered for those types of needs. So this year, the health insurance that you must purchase is offered through the university with United Healthcare, which is one of the biggest healthcare insurance companies in the United States. And the annual premium is $2,289. This covers fall semester, summer semester, and spring semester. So it really is the entire year. And in the past, during COVID, there was an exception with how students could pay this. And it was broken up into two different payments to kind of help with this economic situation during COVID. For this coming year, 2023 to 2024, it has returned to pre-COVID process in which there will be only one payment for the entire year. So you cannot split this payment into multiple payments. It must be a single payment of $2,289, which is quite a bit of money. So it's good to kind of make sure you have your plan in place and plan A and plan B to make that payment. Make sure that the banks are prepared for that, or discover which option will work best for you and your family. And so as you can see in our PowerPoint, August 10th through August 9th will be the coverage dates. And you can actually go in and prepay this already if you want in your e-services account, or you can do it in person at the cashier's office. So we'll have folks assisting those who want to pay online, or we'll have also peer mentors who can take you down to cashiers to make that payment. Finally, the last big piece is immunizations or vaccinations for enrollment. So this is another, I think it's a federal law actually, that any college student must have specific vaccinations to be able to attend, because it's a group of a lot of people living in close areas. So one of the required one is called Tdap, which is tetanus and diphtheria. The other required vaccination is MMR, which is measles, mumps, and rubella. As of current times, COVID vaccinations are no longer required, which is great. I have a lot of students ask if they can have those vaccinations here in the US. Yes, you can get them, and yes, you can get them at our Student Health Services clinic on campus. However, it may be cheaper to do in your home country. So if you are able to kind of look at those, talk to your doctor, see if it's possible to get those vaccinations, and if they are available, I recommend doing that in your home country because it's likely less expensive. And eventually, once you arrive, you will need to send your vaccination record to Student Health Services. Basically, there's an email account where you will submit that kind of information that's probably scanned, or if your doctor has some kind of electronic copy that you can forward. But there will be further instructions about that when you arrive. Did I miss anything about orientation, Beth?
No, I think you got it all.
Awesome.
We have a group of peer mentors who are excited to welcome you to orientation. So students who have gone through this just like you. So they're preparing to meet you at orientation. All right, we'll get into the juicy bits of the orientation or the pre-arrival session, finances and payments. So thinking through finance and payments, you've probably done that a lot over the last couple of months as you've been preparing your financial documents for your I-20, preparing for your visa interview, and showing those financial documents. So we'll talk a little bit more in depth about finances at the university and payment options for you when you get to campus. The budget that the university provides, and this is also what's included on your I-20, it includes the tuition and fees for your classes. It includes the health insurance that you're expected to pay, the estimated cost of living expenses, books and supplies for your classes, as well as personal expenses. So things like extra money for going out to eat at restaurants with friends, buying clothes, transportation, buying supplies for your dormitory or your apartment. So that's what's included in that overall budget that the university provides. But there are some costs, as I'm sure you've seen, that are not included in your budget, such as the CVIS I-901 fee and the visa fee. It should say $185 for the visa fee, but I forgot to update that. So as you probably have paid already, you probably paid that $350 CVIS fee and the $160 or $185 for the visa fee. You also should be planning ahead for your travel to Mankato, Minnesota, if you have not reserved your transportation to get here yet. So things like airfare for your plane ticket, taking the shuttle bus from the airport to the university, any additional hotel or travel costs, such as buying meals while you're at the airport, or when you get to Minnesota, if you need to stay in a hotel temporarily until you can move into your accommodations. Those are things to think through, just those startup costs. So be planning ahead and budgeting that out if you have not already made your travel plans. And we'll talk a little bit more about travel plans in a couple slides. When you get to the university, there are a few options for you to make payments towards your student bill. It's important to note that the only payments you will be making through the university will be the tuition and fees for your classes and health insurance. Those are the guaranteed bills that you will pay through the university. If you are living on campus in the dormitory, you will also see your dormitory fees included in your university bill. But if you're living off campus and you found your own accommodations, that would not be included in your student bill. So the guaranteed expenses will be tuition and fees and health insurance. And it's also important to note that there's no prepayment or enrollment fee when it comes to tuition or enrolling at the university. However, you do need to pay the international health insurance before you are able to register for classes. So that's the only prepayment you will need to make prior to registering for classes. There are a few methods that you can use to pay your university bill. The first option is Flywire. This is a wire transfer service. So we use this platform for direct bank to university wire transfers. So you can go to Flywire and select the country where your bank is located, the amount you want to transfer, the currency that you want to transfer your funds in, and it will give you the best exchange rates available for that transfer to, and it goes directly to the university. So if you want to make a larger payment already towards health insurance, tuition and fees, and residential life costs, you can transfer that money using Flywire. The other option is paying online with a credit card. The university accepts credit cards that use Visa or MasterCard typically, and it should accept most international credit cards as well. So if you have a family member who is sponsoring you and has that credit card, or you have that access, you can also make electronic payments with using that credit card. The next option is you can make payments in person at the university cashier's office using cash or using credit card. If you are planning to travel with cash to the United States, you are required by law to travel with no more than 10,000 US dollars. If you travel with anything more than 10,000 US dollars, you do have to declare this at US Customs when you arrive in the United States. I would not recommend traveling with large amounts of cash, however, because it's very easy for this money to get lost or stolen. And if it's cash, there's no way to replace that. So I would recommend bringing smaller amounts of cash and then having other electronic payment options like a credit card, or planning to wire transfer money to the university when you get here. The university also has a payment plan available. You can enroll in this payment plan already, even if you're not registered for classes. Enrolling in that payment plan reduces any of your university bills into smaller payments. So depending on when you enroll in that payment plan, it will reduce your overall bill to around 3 to 5 payments throughout the semester. That just gives you extra time for you and your family members to make payments towards your bill, and you do not owe everything at once. The only exception for the payment plan is the health insurance. You cannot use a payment plan towards making smaller payments for your health insurance. That does need to be paid in full. And one thing to note as well, I get a lot of questions from students about if they have to pay the entire year of university expenses. And we only bill students each semester that they are enrolled. So each semester that you enroll in classes, you will only see one semester of tuition on your university bill. If you live on campus in the dormitories, you will only see one semester of your dormitory fees for the room and the meal plan. So each semester you're enrolled, that is when you'll receive that monthly bill. You do not need to pay for the full academic year. Did I miss anything on that, Madeline?
There will also be deadlines by which you need to make a payment. I'm not sure what those deadlines are off the top of my head, but it's usually about a month into the semester. And if you do not make a payment of a certain amount of money by that deadline, then you'll receive a late fee, and that will just start you on kind of this very difficult process. So payments, I think in general, especially for university, the norms in the US is definitely pay immediately or as soon as you can to avoid those late fees and to getting into issues later on. One tricky part of this, of course, is the International Maverick Scholarship, which I'm sure many of you will be receiving if you're an undergraduate student. This scholarship will be applied after the add drop deadline of the first week of classes. So basically, when you arrive for orientation week, your bill will look larger than it actually will be because we will be adding the scholarship after the add drop date. Why do we wait to add it? Because so many students make changes to their schedule in that first week of class, and the scholarship is attached to how many credits you are officially registered for. So once that date passes, the add drop deadline, which is usually the Friday of the first week of classes, then we add the scholarship to reflect that kind of permanent, okay, this is what I'm registered for. If we add it beforehand, we're going to have to redo every single person's scholarship amount for those changes. So just keep that in mind when you arrive. Your bill may look really crazy at some moment, but the most important thing is that you pay the insurance payment, which you'll have to do either way. And then if you can wait just a little bit for that scholarship to be applied and then make your payment before that first deadline, that's kind of the timeline.
Awesome. Thanks, Madeline.
Health insurance. So we've kind of talked about this already, but just to kind of reiterate, why do we need health insurance? It is required by the state of Minnesota that international F1 and J1 students must be enrolled in the state health insurance plan. And our health insurance provider is United Healthcare. They have made a contract with the state of Minnesota universities and colleges system. So every other university or college that's within our Minnesota state system uses the same plan, basically, for their F1 and J1 students. In terms of what your health insurance policy covers, it includes medical expenses, prescription drugs, and preventative care services. The only preventative care that is not included is dental care. And so this is another piece. If you have some kind of dental issue or need some dental work done, again, I highly recommend that you make an appointment with your dentist in your home country because the costs will likely be much lower. The United States has notoriously high costs related to dental, even if you have a dental insurance plan, and the dental insurance is not included in your United Healthcare policy. So keep that in mind. Also, you will most likely, your first stop, if you have some kind of illness or some kind of injury, your first stop will most likely be student health services on campus because that will be your lowest cost provider. And so they're wonderful. They work with students all the time. There's a doctor there. There are mental health professionals who work there. And it's really an open space for students. So we really encourage that first stop to be student health services, but sometimes there are emergencies in which you may need to go to the hospital as well. And so basically that's kind of how you utilize your insurance. You'll get a piece of paper that you can print out using your login that you get after you purchase your policy in that first week of orientation. And we will have some staff to answer questions during orientation week of how to utilize that, because we think it's really important that you learn early on how to use it. So when you are in one of those situations that you don't get more stress because I don't know how to use this and I'm not going to go to the doctor because I'm too worried about how to use my health insurance. So it's a very important kind of knowledge to have and to do your research so that you will be prepared in those kind of emergency situations.
Thanks, Madeline. Okay, kind of looking at, once again, at overall costs, you probably have seen this breakdown of the cost of attendance. This is based on 2 semesters of the overall cost of attendance at the university. And I want to emphasize that top column for tuition and fees. This just reiterates what Madeline was mentioning about the International Maverick Scholarship. So that first semester that you are enrolled, when you register for classes in August, you're going to see a bill on your account for the non-resident tuition rate. And again, Madeline mentioned the International Maverick Scholarship will be added to your account after the first 2 weeks of classes. And so it's important to not panic when you see that large sum and think, hey, I'm supposed to get this scholarship. It's not on my account. Why isn't it here? Just know that will be added. And that amount is estimated in our student bill on our website. So you kind of have an idea of what your fees will be for that first semester. It's going to be around $5,500 for that first semester at Minnesota State University after the scholarship is awarded. So keep in mind, this is where that overall breakdown comes. And again, student bills are billed to you per semester, and you can enroll in those payment plans early on. So I would encourage you to enroll in that payment plan if you have not done so already. That way, when you join the university and you register for classes and that student bill is added to your account, you can already begin making smaller payments. And the payment plan also ensures that you will have all of your payments made by that deadline in October, which is the final deadline. I think it's October 20th is when you need to make those final payments to the university to avoid any late fee or registration hold on your account for the next semester.
Nice. All right. So how do I get to Mankato? You're going to travel probably very far. So we always ask new students when they're at orientation how many miles they travel to arrive, and then we do a big comparison, which is fun. So the nearest airport to Mankato is called MSP, which is Minneapolis and St. Paul International Airport. It is an international airport that has an international arrivals area with its own customs and immigration. And so it's about 120 kilometers from Mankato, so a little bit over an hour drive, hour and 15 minutes. And there is a shuttle service that we recommend students use to come to campus, and that is called Land to Air. And so sometimes the vehicles they use are smaller shuttle vans. Sometimes it's a large coach. It depends on the time of day and how many people they have signed up to take the ride. So what's really nice is you can also take that shuttle back to the airport, and a lot of students use that to just go to Minneapolis and St. Paul and spend some time in the Twin Cities to visit family or friends or do different things, go to a museum, and then they're able to ride it back to Mankato, but it does stop at the airport. And so the drop-off location that you want to request from Land to Air Express is MNSU or Minnesota State University. They have an additional stops along the way at different universities and kind of like a meeting place to use the shuttle. So just make sure if you use this service, when you get on the bus, you let the driver know, I'm going to Minnesota State University Mankato, and they'll say, awesome, I will drop you off there. But don't assume that they will stop there if you don't let them know. This happened to one of my students. She didn't realize she needed to tell the driver that, and they didn't stop at the university, but at a different location in Mankato. So it's really important you communicate that. They're expecting you to, so don't worry if you feel weird telling them that. It's totally fine. You'll be dropped off near the dorms, and so if you have a dorm room, you'll be able to go to the residential life office and get your keys, get all checked in, and go straight to your dorm. If you're planning on living off campus, then you will want to make arrangements once you're in Mankato of either if you can walk there or if you want to take an Uber or Lyft driver to take you to your accommodations. It kind of depends on your situation. So then finally, some folks still haven't figured out housing. It can be kind of challenging to do that from another country when you're not in Mankato presently. So I have some good news. There are lots of really good, affordable hotels in Mankato, and there is one really near the university. with some pre-reserved rooms for international students who are arriving. So when I say pre-reserved, it means they've just set these aside with the understanding that there will likely be a lot of international students who may need a room. You will have to reserve that room and make that payment yourself. But it's just basically creating the space and making sure no other person reserves those rooms other than international students. Any other tips for travel to Mankato?
We get a lot of questions if students can temporarily stay in the dorms when they arrive, so they do not have to get a hotel. Unfortunately, we do not have capacity for temporary housing. And so you will have to reserve a hotel if you are not able to move into your apartment the first couple days of classes. So be budgeting for that. Try to reserve a hotel early on. You usually get better rates the earlier that you reserve. So we're a couple weeks out right now. You can even contact the hotel. You can send them an email. Most hotels in Mankato will give discounts to students. So let them know you're a new student coming to Minnesota State University and ask if they have any student discounts for you. So just plan ahead with that. I know a lot of students try to avoid having to stay in a hotel, but Mankato just does not have other temporary housing options. So that's going to be the best workaround solution for you.
Mm-hmm. And I do think the hotels are pretty affordable for kind of US standards. So that's helpful. Also, in terms of orientation week, which is the 14th through the 17th, you will, if you check in by the end of check-in time on Tuesday the 15th, you will receive 30 dining dollars to be used at the various locations that are open during orientation week on campus. So you would have $30 to kind of use however you want to buy whatever you want. If you want a coffee and breakfast, or if you'd rather pay for lunch for yourself or dinner, that will be reserved for you to use with your card, your Maverick card that you will be getting. Beyond that, it's good to also budget for paying for your own food, because I don't think $30 will last for every single meal for that week. And then if you are in the dorms, the meal plan and the dining hall will open Thursday evening of that week. So kind of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is definitely more on you as the student to kind of determine, where am I going to eat? I need to have enough money for each day to make sure I can eat enough and kind of be ready to be responsible for your meals those 3 days especially.
Awesome. Housing options. If you have not yet arranged your housing and where you're going to live in Minnesota State University, Mankato, make sure to do this sooner rather than later. Wait until you do have your student visa approved before making any housing arrangements, just to guarantee that you are able to travel to the US for the fall semester. There are two options when it comes to living in Mankato. However, we have an off-campus option and we have an on-campus living in the residential life dormitories. The on-campus housing for the fall semester is full for fall 2023. Residential Life just let us know this week that they are completely full for their rooms. However, they are taking waitlist students. So if a student for whatever reason is not able to join this semester and they can open up that room option for other students. So if you really want to live on campus, I recommend joining the waitlist. There is no prepayment or fee to join the on-campus waitlist. So it's completely free to sign up. And if you are selected, then you would obviously have to fill out a housing contract and make the payments for the on-campus residential life dormitories. So just keep that in mind. On-campus housing right now is waitlist only. So your guaranteed options for housing in Mankato, if you have not already arranged this, is going to be renting off campus at an apartment complex, or even some people have rental homes that students will rent from. So there is a website you can go to at MNSU. If you search on the main website, housing, it's going to bring you directly to that website or that web page within the MSU website, and it will have a really helpful resource for finding off-campus apartments that are located near the university. So there's a full off-campus housing database that has all of the rental properties and apartment complexes listed. You can also search for people who are looking for roommates. So if you are interested in just finding somebody who you can live with for that first year, there's a connection place where you can find people already living in Mankato or new students looking for roommates to live with in their apartment. A couple things to know about housing is you do need to sign a lease, and typically that a lease is a contract that ensures that you are going to be paying rent to that apartment or to that rental property. Most leases are 12 months long, so be prepared that you will be paying rent for that place for the next year if you decide wherever you decide to live. And so you are obligated each month to pay your rent, what you owe to that property. And then, depending on the type of apartment you might be living in, there will be different things you need to pay for utilities. So that might include electricity, that could be gas for your heat or your stove that you're using. You may also need to pay for water as well as internet. Each apartment complex has different utility options within their rent. Some apartments may cover everything and you only need to pay for internet. Others, you might just need to pay for water or electricity. You just need to read what those specific terms are in your lease. If you're living off campus, you, of course, are responsible for your own cooking and cleaning. So make sure that you're budgeting each month for your grocery bill. There are meal plans available for students who live off campus in apartments. There's a meal plan that's $250 per semester, and it gives you dining dollars to use on campus at any of the cafeterias, cafes, coffee shops, and restaurants. So if you want to prepay for an off-campus meal plan, the benefit is anything you purchase on campus is tax free. So you actually get a little bit of a discount rather than just paying for cash on campus. So some students do choose those off-campus meal plans just because depending on what their class schedule is. So that's a good option for students. Overall, as you're budgeting for renting in Mankato, it's important to budget around $800 to $1,000 per month for everything. So that would include your rent, the utilities for where you're living, your groceries for buying food, as well as purchasing renter's insurance. We do recommend that if you are renting, you purchase renter's insurance. This is usually like $10 to $15 per month. It's not a huge fee. And the benefit of that renter's insurance is it protects you if anything would happen to your personal property within your apartment. So if, for example, somebody broke into your apartment and stole your laptop, renter's insurance would pay for your laptop to be replaced. Or let's say that there was a flood. Let's say it rained it rained very heavily and you're on the ground level and your apartment gets flooded for some reason. Renter's insurance would cover any property damage to your private property. So it's just a really good option to have in the event that something happens. All of your personal property is protected, but that is optional. If you've already signed a contract for on-campus housing and living in the dormitories, you should have received your housing assignment already for the fall 2023 semester. And so you should know the dorm you're living in and likely who your roommate will be if you do have a roommate. You do have the option when you signed up for your on-campus housing, you likely chose a meal plan for the on-campus dining. You do have the option to change your meal plan during the semester. So if you start the first week or second week and you decide, this meal plan is not the one I want to switch to something else, they will work with you to change your meal plan. So don't feel like you're locked into what you chose on your application. If you are living on campus in the dormitories, you are required to live there for the full academic year. So from August through May of 2024, that is what your contract is for. The contract is very strict. So if you live there for the fall semester and you meet some friends and you want to move off campus to an apartment with those friends, because for the spring semester, because you've signed that contract for the full academic year, you are obligated to remain in your dormitory through the spring 2024 semester. So keep that in mind. It's not typically possible to break your contract with on-campus housing, so you will be required to live there for the full 9 months. Anything about, the one other thing I was going to mention about housing for on-campus housing, you can move in to the dormitories as early as August 5th, I want to say. Just
Yeah.
Yep. Right. I think it's the 5th of August. So you should have received housing information about early arrival from Residential Life. So if you are arriving early to Mankato and you want to move directly into your dormitory, you can do this. You will need to fill out an early arrival request form with Residential Life, letting them know when you're planning to come so that they can have your room and your key for your room all ready for you. There will be a fee of $20 per day to move into the dormitories early. So if you move in between August 5th through, I think it's August 15th, there will be a daily fee that you need to pay. All right. Anything else about housing?
I don't think so.
Sounds good.
Awesome. So getting around Mankato is really awesome because you have a free pass on the bus. So once you get your MAV card, which is going to be your official student ID card, this is also where your dining dollars or anything related to your plan will be added to this card on your account. And you'll also use it to beep onto the bus. And there are several different bus lines that go through MSU campus. There's one that goes to where most people go, which is like Walmart and the mall. There's one that goes downtown. So there are multiple options. There are also buses and shuttles that kind of move between off-campus housing and campus. So when it gets to be cold outside, you can take the bus instead of walking. But there's also other transportation. We already talked about Land to Air Express, which takes you to Minneapolis and St. Paul Airport. There's 2 companies of driver services that you use through an app called Lyft and Uber. And I don't know if everyone's home country has access to these, but these are really convenient. You can also split a ride price with someone else who has another account too, which is kind of convenient. And then there are also always taxi services that you can call as well. Finally, campus is definitely walkable, and there is a CVS that's near campus that you can walk to. And it is possible to walk to downtown. However, it's a bit far walking. It may take you about a half hour to walk down the hill to in town. Some students choose to get bikes. So there are a lot of different options, but it's great that you have access to the bus for free.
All right. Thinking about scholarships and things related to funding. I know a lot of students have questions about additional scholarships in addition to the International Maverick Scholarship. For students, once they're enrolled, you will have access to a scholarship database called Scholarship Finder. On Scholarship Finder, it will give you a complete list of university scholarships that you can apply for. So you can create a profile on Scholarship Finder, and it will automatically filter scholarships to you that they think you might be eligible for. So the university offers quite a few scholarships each year for current students, depending on what your major is, extracurricular activities you might be involved in, student clubs or organizations you might be involved in. So it's important to check Scholarship Finder and create that account so you can see what's available to you. Each year in the month of February, this is scholarship month for our current students. So you can apply for scholarships during February each year, and usually by March or April, you will be notified if you are awarded a scholarship for the next academic year. And so that scholarship would be applied towards future tuition for your classes in the next year. So there are quite a few scholarships available. It's important to plan ahead for these as you're thinking about funding, because the scholarship applications usually require an essay as well as a couple letters of recommendation. So plan ahead with those so that you can apply early and have access to additional funding. The two new student scholarships that students are receiving if you're an undergraduate international student is that International Maverick Scholarship. It's currently valued at $7,700 for 2 semesters. So $3,350 per semester is what you would be receiving. Some students also may be receiving their Refer a Friend scholarship. This is a scholarship that if you had a current international student who's a friend or family member refer you to apply to Minnesota State Mankato, you and that friend will both receive a one-time $500 scholarship towards your tuition if you were awarded for that scholarship. So that will be added to your tuition after you enroll at the university, so around the similar time of the International Maverick Scholarship. So if you were awarded that Refer a Friend scholarship, you would have received an email from our international office with that award information. The important thing to note about the Refer a Friend scholarship is once you're a current student, you can now refer future international students to the university and receive a $500 scholarship for each student you refer, up to 5 students. So that's $2,500 of additional scholarship potential that you could receive for referring students to the university. So keep that in mind now that you're planning to enroll. There are additional scholarship opportunities with that.
Awesome.
I'm gonna skip that one. All right.
All right. So academics, the part that everyone wants to know, what classes am I taking and how do I register for them and all of that. So first year students will be registering in person at orientation. So you will meet a very large group of academic advisors for each college. And so the college that is connected to your major, you will be going with a group of other students in the same college. Maybe they have the same major as you, maybe they don't, but they're related in that they're all in the same college. You will meet with the advisors from that college, and they will help you to register during orientation week. It will mostly be on Thursday of that week. In order to be able to register, you must have paid your health insurance, and you must have also taken placement tests. So that's really important to accomplish in Monday and Tuesday when you arrive for orientation. If you have transfer credits, meaning maybe you took some college level course in your home country, or there's some other type of college credit that you'd like to transfer, This is kind of a complicated process because you will basically have to work with a service that translates and makes equivalencies for any international college credit. The United States has a very specific system in terms of college credits, and so any other country's college credit system has to be created with an equivalency. So it doesn't automatically transfer. You'll have to go through this process and pay a third-party website called ECE, which is Educational Credential Evaluators, that will look at your transcripts, and then they will create a new document that basically creates the equivalencies in the United States. The fee is around $200. It could be a little bit more depending on which report you order. And that kind of also depends on your major, what your department requires, that kind of thing. So this is a kind of long process that takes a little bit of preparation and paperwork. And so it's really important that you as the student are patient in this process as you work with the different offices on campus that can help process those transfer credits. Now, if for some reason you took some kind of college course here in the United States because you were visiting someone or just took a class, that's another type of transfer process in which you would have those transcripts be sent to MSU Mankato. So in terms of academic advising during that initial registration session during orientation, you will most likely not be meeting with who will be your advisor moving forward. You will be probably working with a team of advisors because you are a new student. So this is something that a lot of students kind of struggle to understand or feel comfortable with, is like, well, I should have my advisor and I want to know who that is. When you're a first year student, you have different needs than what you will have when you are a junior or senior. And so when you're a first year student, it's most important that you are registered for those kind of basic courses that you know you need to get out of the way in order to start moving towards your major. And there are also general education requirements that all students must take. So that first year is really just kind of placing you in those types of classes that are appropriate for your skill level and that are interesting to you. So think about that as you're in the registration for classes process. Think about, why am I taking this class? What is the end purpose? What is the end goal? How is this going to help me moving forward? And so the more purposeful you are in choosing your classes, the more successful you are likely to be. As I mentioned earlier in this presentation, a lot of students want to change their major. This is totally normal. I changed my major several times when I was in college, and you can also add another major, you can add another minor. So academic advising is kind of these meetings with professional advisors to help you think through that, and also look at your timeline for by what date do you want to graduate. And so they're there to kind of help you figure out that process, and it's really normal to kind of explore and maybe change a few times what you want to study in the United States. I know a lot of universities in different countries, you have to know what you want to study before you even go to college, because you take that examination in order to be admitted to your college program. United States is different in that we want you as a young person to explore your interests and to kind of think about what you want to do and test out different things, see what you like, see what you don't like, so that you end up doing, hopefully, the type of work that will be important for you in the future, that will be sustainable and will be interesting to you. Just on the right side of the screen, you can see our academic calendar. So fall semester is usually end of August to very early December. Then there's a break. And then spring semester begins January 8th to May 3rd. So there's a pretty tight turnaround from when classes begin for spring semester. And then there's an optional summer term, which is May 13 to July 19, and there are 2 sessions within that. So we always say optional summer term because your F1 status requires you to be registered for 12 credits or more during the fall and spring semesters as a part of maintaining your F1 status. You do not need to maintain 12 credits or more during the summer. That's seen as an optional piece, but fall and spring, it is required to be registered in 12 or more credits. So, something to think about.
All right. And I know we're a little over time here, so thanks for anyone joining us and sticking with us on YouTube and our live sessions and an air meet. We just have a few more slides to cover of important information and questions we get from a lot of students, especially as they're getting closer to enrollment. One of those questions I get a lot is employment opportunities at the university and what can you do as an international student? So you do have a couple employment options that the F1 visa allows for international students. The first is on-campus employment. So for undergraduate students and graduate students, you are eligible to be employed on campus at any on-campus employer, but you are limited to how many hours per week you can work. So for undergraduate students, you can work up to 20 hours per week. Graduate students are limited to up to 14 hours per week. Unless you have a graduate assistantship or teaching assistantship, then you can work up to 20 hours per week. So there is that part-time on-campus employment option. During breaks of the semester, so summer break or winter break, undergraduate students can work up to 40 hours per week on campus. So that gives you a little bit more employment time to earn money during those semester breaks. Graduate students, however, are still limited to 14 hours per week. That's a year-round policy from the state of Minnesota. So it's a little bit limiting unless you have that graduate assistantship. Most university jobs are starting wages are around $12 per hour. So it's a pretty competitive starting salary for some jobs, and there are opportunities to earn more the more work experience you have in a specific department. You can apply for jobs through a platform called Handshake. This is a university platform where campus employers will post on-campus job openings. You will have access to that Handshake platform after the first week of classes. So you will not have access to that platform until you're registered for classes. And then it takes about a week for our university system to get all the students added to that Handshake platform. Once you get access, though, you can create a profile and have a resume or a CV posted on there so that you can easily apply for on-campus jobs. We also recommend that you build relationships with different departments on campus because networking can really help you find a job. So if you're just not seeing a lot of job openings, feel free to go to some departments that you're interested in working for on campus and just ask if they have any potential job opportunities coming up throughout the year so you can plan ahead for those. The second option for employment is off-campus employment. The F1 student visa does allow for 2 off-campus employment experiences throughout your time as an international student. The first is curricular practical training, or CPT. This is employment you will do typically in your if you're an undergraduate student, second year to fourth year of being an international student. For graduate students, you usually can start this in your second or third semester at the university. But this is an internship or co-op experience that's directly related to your program of study. So if you're an IT major, for example, you are required to do an internship during your program. And so you will find an internship experience, get the authorization for that internship and employment off campus, and then you can go and work for that internship. Most internships that students find are usually paid. So it's a good way to get experience in your field of study and also have a part-time job during your academic program. So that's one of the benefits most of our students take advantage of at some point during their experience. The other employment option to plan ahead for is optional practical training. This is work authorization in the US after you've graduated from your program at the university. So when you're in your final semester at the university, you will apply for this work authorization. And if approved, it will give you 12 months of employment in the United States. And then if you're studying in a STEM based program, you can apply for an additional 2-year extension for STEM OPT. So just a few things to plan ahead for employment. But most students who are at the university will just take advantage of those on-campus employment opportunities during their first and second year at the university. Remember, though, that you are student first. So enjoy the first couple of weeks of the semester, try to get settled, figure out your class schedule and your homework load so that you can determine if you have enough extra time to have an on-campus job, because you don't want an on-campus job to take away from your ability to be a successful student. So remember, you're a student first while you're at the university. So make sure that you take that time to settle in before looking for jobs.
Good advice.
Yes.
So another really important emphasis that our university puts for students is really developing your skill set for the career that you are interested in doing, whether it's anywhere in the world. So our Career Development Center is very active on campus, and that's actually another place you can stop kind of early on. As you are here, they will help you write your first resume. They will help you get connected to different opportunities. They have all kinds of development assessments that you can take and working on your skill set, workshops, networking opportunities, and career fairs. We are actually kind of collaborating with them to host some special events for international students, just because that limitation that international students have to not being able to work off campus unless they have that special permission through CPT or OPT. Sometimes that means we need to get creative in finding ways to help prepare international students for the career force. So these names over here, I believe, are companies that have hired MNSU students. In fact, I have a student who just got signed on as an engineer for Tesla this year, which is really exciting for him. But as you can see, these are big names. Our students are awesome and brilliant, and we have a lot of alumni connections that we would like to help facilitate between international students who are in their area of study and those who are now in the career field. And so if you look at the stats in the right lower corner over there, most of our students get employed pretty much immediately after graduation. And then some of them choose to go on for their master's or PhD. So there are a lot of opportunities, but ultimately it's up to you as the student to pursue them and to kind of think about those and create long-term and short-term goals. So we're happy to help on that journey.
And then when you come to campus, you have a lot of opportunities to get involved as a student and find your community based on what interests you have. But you are a student both in the classroom and outside of the classroom, and community is a huge part of being a successful student. Finding your friends, finding mentors, finding people that inspire you to be successful academically, personally, and professionally. So there's different ways that you can get involved on campus through student clubs and organizations, different events, different departments that support students on campus. So we have 200 plus student organizations and clubs as well. And this ranges from everything that's academic based to sports, to special interest groups like a swing dance club, rock climbing clubs, skiing and snowboarding clubs. So there's different ways that you can try a lot of fun and exciting things and meet really cool people at the university. There's also special programs like undergraduate research and honors, as well as learning communities. If you are living in the dormitories, you might have the option to live in a learning community with other students from your major. So there's really cool ways that you get connected through different organizations on campus that way. We also have international student clubs, such as the International Student Association, and cultural events that you can join. For example, this fall, I think it's in November, we're going to have the International Festival during International Education Week. And there's a lot of really cool projects that you can be involved in as an international student preparing for the International Festival and meet some really awesome people from across campus and the community. You also can utilize different student support services and departments, such as the International Center, the Women's Center, the LGBT Center. There's student tutoring and academic support. So if you need additional support for some of your classes, there's free tutoring available for you. There's a writing center to help support you in writing for your classes, for essays or special projects that you might be working on. So a lot of this information will be covered at orientation as well, and you'll get to hear from some really cool departments on campus that are here to support you and make you a successful student.
There will be a resource fair on one of the days during orientation as well, with 27 different groups. So 27 out of 200, that's a pretty good group to just explore and go and talk to them. That's something that all new students will be doing during orientation, is like, what do I want to do while I'm here? What do I want to be involved in? What kind of group seems like people who can be my friends? What kind of groups can help me towards my academic and career goals? Those are all questions you should be asking yourself during orientation, of just let me try it out. Why not?
Well, that wraps up a lot of the information that we had for you today. So thanks for sticking with us a little bit longer if you stayed till the end. And one more event I want to highlight that's on the schedule is our Admitted Student Day, and that's coming up on August 8th. So make sure to register for Admitted Student Day and join that event. I think it's going to be fairly interactive, so you'll get a chance to connect with other international students that are also coming for orientation and that you'll get to meet in a couple of weeks in August. So August 8th, make sure to join that Admitted Student Day. And with that, I think we will wrap up our presentation. Thanks, Madeline, for joining and all your helpful info.
Looking forward to seeing everybody soon.
Bye, everyone.